So let's have a look at this Buangkok region. This is Sengkang Grand Residences. Now currently is trading at about $2,100 per square foot at this point in time, which is we're in Q4 2024. Jewel at Buangkok is a condominium launched by CDL, $1,700+ PSF. Quartz older development, $1,400+ PSF. And have a look at this EC that has already reached MOP status, is now doing at $1,600+ per square foot. The question now is that why is it that this EC outperformed the Quartz and is quite similar in terms of PSF level to Jewel? So when we look at Esperina Residences, currently is trading at about $1,600+ per square foot on a very consistent basis. Quantity of transaction is very healthy in 2024. In fact, ever since it MOP, it has already performed very well. And then of course, when you look at Quartz, it's about $1,400+ per square foot. And then when you look at this is basically Jewel at Buangkok, is about $1,700+ per square foot. So the question then is this true? And we want to talk about this in this particular webinar today. So let's have a look at myth number 2 first. Now, myth number 2 is that a lot of people say that, hey, you should always sell your EC once it reaches MOP, because that is the year that you will see the most gain. And if you don't sell within the first year, what's going to happen is that your EC is going to stagnate in performance. Now, is that true? Because this will pop out in the mind of a lot of EC owners. They are currently holding on to their ECs. They are attaining MOP status or going to attain MOP status or have already attained MOP status for 2, 3, 4 years. And you're contemplating this. And are there any data in the market that will fulfill this myth to see whether is it even true or not true? Have a look at this. This is a project that TOP in 2013, MOP in 2018. Now let me come back to the whiteboard with you a little bit. So it's important to note that when somebody buys an EC, minimally they're holding it for 9 years. If they happen to be the first-hand buyer that bought during launch, of course, if they bought during balance unit kind of season, let's say for example, it's already starting construction, there are balance units in the market, they bought it, and then 1 year later it's TOP, then their duration of holding is shorter, probably about 1+5 or 2+5. Now, sometimes during this MOP status, they appeal to HDB to sell earlier because of different kind of personal reasons. For example, maybe because of divorce reasons, maybe because of health reasons, maybe because of medical schooling needs as well. They need to sell slightly earlier in order to so-called like appeal to HDB that to grant them to exit before the 5 years mark. So sometimes you will see transactions that happen at the 4-year or 4.5 years mark. But of course, that's another side topic. Just in case, if let's say you have certain subscription or certain kind of like portals, research portals, you are looking at, hey, what are there transactions before the MOP date? So let's come back here. So for this particular webinar, I'm going to talk about a few key time frames. Number one is the TOP date. TOP date is the date that all the EC owner, they collect their keys and then they wait for 5 years to hit the MOP period. So in 2018, all these owners can sell. So when they can sell during the first 0 to 1 year, the average profit quantum of the 3 bidders in this particular project is about 434,000. First to second year, 486. Second to third year, 450. Then suddenly in the 4th to 5th year, it exploded up to 966,000 for all the 3 bidder owners here. And in the 5th to 6th year mark, it exploded to about $1.06 million. So then is that myth true? Because just now I was talking about this particular myth that a lot of people say that, hey, you have to sell in your first year, but have a look at this. So how we quantify this research is that our research team in PLB, we basically track the transactions from the initial purchase date to the first sale of each unit. So thereby giving us this entire table. And for this table itself, just to illustrate whether the myth is true or not, is that we only take the 3 bidders of this particular project, which I'll review to you later. And what is this phenomenon? How does this even happen? Let's have a look at basically the second project as well. So second project, it seems that the first year, the 3 bidders only make about averagely 385,000 in terms of paper quantum gain. And then towards the 4th to 5th year, it exploded up to 792,000. That means if they have not sold it back then, they have held it on to at least the third to fourth year, they will have made about 605,000. Fourth to fifth year, they have made about 792,000. If they have held on and only exited in 2023, they would have made $979,100. Now, how about this project itself? This is an older development, TOP 2008, and then MOP in 2013. However, the first year owners, they made an average quantum of 385K, and then they suffered a loss if they held on to it. So it seems to us that, hey, that myth might be true, because if they have exited within the first year, they have made more. If they have waited until second to third year, they have made less. And these are all talking about the initial purchase to the first sale of each unit. That means we are tracking the first owner's quantum gain based on the amount of time frame that they held on to their unit. So it seems that for this particular project, it fulfills that myth number 2, that if you sell within the first year, you have made the first golden pot, in the sense that you have made the most amount. If you have held on, the risk actually increases, and even if you have held on until the 6th to 7th year, you have made lesser. However, if you have held on to the 9th or 10th year, it seems that you have made more. And what is this phenomenon? How did this even happen? How do we even then quantify to see whether this data points even help us as an EC owner? And how about this particular project? It seems that, hey, TOP 2016, MOP 2021, but then the first year, if I would have exited, I only made 391,000. 2024, if I exited and I held on for 3 years after my MOP, I would have made about 700 over 1,000. Let's have a look at this chart again. So who are all these owners? I mean, they made about 200 plus, 300 plus, 400 plus, 500 plus, 600 plus thousand. Who are all these owners? When did they sell? And when we track through the entire ECs that have been sold after their MOP by the first-hand owners, it seems to us that there are a lot of transactions that happen within the 0 to first year. There are of course like a tapering amount of transactions that happen in the first to second year, and then it starts to taper downward. It seems to us that first-hand EC owners, after holding on, let's come to this camp, after holding on to 9 years, because it's a 9 years wait already. For example, you have bought this property at the launch and you are 30 years old. And then when you can sell, you are 39 years old. So it seems to us that a lot of people, after waiting for 9 years, they tend to want to exit once it hits MOP. Why is that so? How about this chart? When we look at this, then we're trying to see, hey, most $200,000 to $300,000 gain happens to sellers that sold within the first year. But then, is it true as well? Because most 300,000 to 400,000 gains happen to sellers that sell within first year also. 400,000 to 500,000 within first year as well. And it's really confusing with all this data, because this data seems to conflict with one another. And why is it important to look at all this data is because we really want to answer myth number 2 back then, is that should we sell our EC on year 1? So it seems that not all data point to the same myth, which then means that that myth might not be true. So we're going to investigate further into this webinar now. So let's come to this as well. ECs sure make money. That means if I were to buy an EC at launch, I will surely see gains. Now, is that also true? And it seems to us that actually about 1,000 owners that have bought ECs from launch till the day they sell, they didn't make any gain. They in fact lost money. It is non-profitable. About 1,000 owners actually lost money. 1,027 to be exact. So who are all these first-time owners that made the loss buying ECs, and why? And it's really confusing, because if we were to look at this basically percentage change in terms of PSF on a year-to-year basis on the number of years being held after MOP, it seems that the gain in terms of PSF is about $42 after first year, and then another $41, then also another 46. Sorry, it's not dollars. Let me just backtrack a little bit. It's 42%, 41%, 46%. The percentage seems to hover in a fashion. And of course, if you hold long term enough at about 20 years, the percentage change then of course explodes. But this data also don't tell us much, because even if we do break down to a simple rate of return, like should I hold on for more years in order to see more gain, it seems that every year the percentage change in terms of the median returns that I get as an EC owner if I hold on to it is about the same. That means about 5%. I hold on for one more is about 4%. I hold for another is about another 4%. It seems that it actually correlates to the same overall private residential property gain in the market. So should I even hold on to my ECs, right? So this is a compounded annual rate. It's also about averaging about 4%. And then before we deep dive into some of those myths and as well as some of those charts, let's talk about some EC facts in Singapore. Just in case you have, of course, been holding on to your EC for the last 9, 10, 15 or 20 years, you want to do a refresh of what is happening in the real estate market in Singapore, this is a great chance for you. And of course, one of my purpose for this particular webinar is really to value add as much as we can. So let's have a look at some of the EC facts in Singapore, shall we? So we have 72 ECs in Singapore total. 6 ECs are currently under construction right now. There are 4 plots that have been recently awarded, but they have not commenced construction. So in total, we have 81 ECs in Singapore. And of course, the first EC was Eastville, and it was TOP in 1999. Now, most ECs launch, they are actually towards the 3-beders bedroom type. So if you notice, 3-beders have been the most kind of popular launch layouts by developers, and of course that is really to cater to the needs of a lot of families. 2-beders about 5,000 plus unit, 4-beders about 4,000, 5-beders about 912. Now the last few ECs with like mega floor footage area will be the one in Tampines, if I'm not wrong. So basically City Life was like the last one with like a mega penthouse, after which there's been a lot of curbs by governments to ensure that developers don't build these kind of mega penthouses anymore. So which was why after that launch, a lot of the ECs that were being built later on, they usually have the top level being like the high loft ceiling kind of penthouses. All right. Now, most transactions take place within first year after MOP. So it just goes to show that a lot of people, after waiting for 9 years, they want to move on because they have either other plans, they want to expand their portfolio, they want to buy a different type of property, they want to move to another location. There are a lot of different needs, reasons for transactions to take place within the first year. And the number of EC units that have been transacted, of course, we have tracked them. We found that a lot of the properties we've lost happened during the first era of ECs. All the way starting from Eastville with 36 transactions we've lost. Then it goes to Chesterville, Simei Green, we have about 126. Florida, 54. And then when you look at Woodsville, 103. North Oaks, 124. And then, of course, Floraville, 91. And then after that, starting from Lilydale, there has been almost no transactions we've lost ever since we see the EC from Lilydale, TOP at 2003 and MOP at 2008. That means anything that is before Lilydale, which the last project before that was the Floraville at the year 2000, TOP and MOP at 2005. Anything before that, they have losses. And of course, they also have profit as well. All right? But anything after Lilydale has 0 transactions we've lost for the first-hand EC owners. 0 transactions all the way. When you look at this third page, still 0 all the way. And then, of course, this is the latest one. All right. So this is the latest one where you have all these projects under construction. For example, you have North Gaia, you have Copen Grand, you have Tenet, you have Altura, you have Lumina Grand. All these are under construction. Now, when you look at all the other projects that is over here, some of them are going to hit MOP status this year. Some of them are going to hit MOP status in 2027. Some of them are going to hit MOP status in 2029. So, for example, 100 Palms is going to hit MOP status in the year 2024 in December, very likely. And so far, projects after the Lilydale era, they have 0 losses. Only the projects with here do we see first-hand owners having losses. So why is that so? Let's have a look at some of these facts as well. So these are the recent plots that have been awarded. This is an EC plot. There's an EC plot at Jalan Loyang Besar. Of course, there's one at Plantation Close. There's also one at Tampines at the Greendale area. There's also one at Plantation Close as well. These are the 4 plots. And there are also 6 plots under construction right now. Novo Place, Lumina Grand, Altura Tenet, Coburn Grand, and North Gaia. All right, so these are just some quick facts. So for this particular webinar, what we're going to do is that we're going to talk about these 3 main things. Number 1, what determines an EC's profit? Because that's important for us to understand. Why? That's going to help us to make a decision or shape our analysis to see if we should even sell our EC or just let it run its course. All right. Number 2 is that it can also help us to determine which is the best year to sell our EC. Number 3, should we even sell our EC or should I keep my EC, decouple and buy another property? Number 4, should I even exit from my EC and go for a bigger, stronger asset, for example, a landed property or maybe another bigger property? All right. Number 2, when should we sell? Should we sell upon MOP or should I just decouple and let the transactions clock in to make further gains? Just like some of the examples that I showed earlier on, that some of the owners, if they're held on for about 4 years later, the gain actually doubled. Should I even do that? Will that be for my EC? Number 3, portfolio planning. Should I sell or should I decouple? Now, this will be based on objectives, and we're going to talk about these 3 things in this particular webinar. Now, just very quickly, disclaimer, if this is your first time joining us, this is not meant for investment advice. This is all made purely from our PLB research team analysis, data point analysis, as well as my own personal experience, plus my own frameworks, and over the years of helping my clients and investors. And let this be an educational webinar for yourself, and I hope that this can value add to you. But most importantly, make the final call based on your own analysis, financial prudency as well. All right. Now, very quickly, for those of you who have not seen any of our PLB content before, and this is the first time joining us, just a quick introduction. My name is Melvin Lim, PropertyLimBrothers, co-founder and CEO. I've been in real estate for 17 years. In the last 16 years, basically, I basically started 2 companies. I started as a realtor in the year 2007. In 2018, I started a media production house. Now it has evolved to a creative agency. And of course, in 2022, we started PLB Realty with full-time consultants. And this was one of the recent convention that we did at Suntec. We have about 900 people that came for a new launch convention. I personally have filmed and analyzed over 1,000 over home tours, and of course we have sold 1,000 over properties over the years as well. So these are some of the channels that we have: PropertyLimBrothers, NOTG, PLB Insights. They all cover different content. You can check them out on YouTube. This was the convention that we did in July this year at Suntec City. We had a full day event where we talked about all the new launch frameworks to determine how to do stack analysis, location analysis, disparity price, entry price, how do we exit and stuff like that. And this was some of the things that we did during that day. We had a lot of screens, we have VRs, we have all the projects that we were analyzing. And of course, this was meant really to be a frameworks convention. So this is our creative agency arm. We have 88 creatives. About half of them are overseas, half are in Singapore. They're all full-timers. And of course, we also have currently about 65 realtors that are all full-time consultants. We do not take in part-time consultants. The reason is because we work on a very collaborative team basis to really serve our clients as full-time real estate consultants that really focuses on investment approach, research, and analysis. So this is our website. You can head on to PropertyLimBrothers.com. There's a lot of things for you to explore. There are videos, articles, podcasts, and a lot of research and data frameworks and tools as well for you to utilize. These are our listings. These are all properties that are currently for sale for our clients. And of course, you can check them out as well. So for our style of webinars, if this is your first time, take note that this webinar style that we started from 2023 January until today, there are no push for any new launch projects or PLB listings. They are all meant to be research-based, sharing of frameworks. And when we talk from a lens of a seller, we will adopt an unbiased seller lens. All right, that means we want to really find a way to maximize the exit price as a home seller. Now, when it comes to a property buyer investor point of view, we will look at a buyer-based lens. That means we want to hunt for the property with very high potential for appreciation of our capital, return of investment, as well as the ease of exit. So we adopt both different lenses when we adopt different kind of position, depending on whether are we selling or buying. All right. So with that, let's have a look. Now, this is a typical EC owner route. Now, a typical EC owner role is that, for example, let's say I bought something that was about $800 per square foot during launch. I collected my keys 4 years later when it TOP. And let's say I started at age 30, then I went on to 34. I waited for 5 years, and I'm 39 years old right now, and my EC has MOP. And then when I look at the transaction prices of some of my owners that started to sell, I was shocked to realize that now it's about $1,400, $50, 1450 PSF, sorry. So to me, in my context, it's like, hey, it seems like, wow, it is almost doubling, all right? And I'll definitely have a few key questions is that my family has probably expanded over the years. Maybe now I have children already, school-going kids, because I got married, I waited for my EC, we stayed in it for 5 years already. And of course, my kids might be studying around the area. Or maybe if, let's say, I have no kids, it's the two of us, but both me and my spouse and my partner, we're all working, we have income-producing professions, and we're just thinking, hey, how can we further leverage on property investment to really protect our wealth or grow our wealth with the aspiration that once we reach 55 or 65 years old towards our defensive stage, then we have more options, all right? Now, without doing any planning, this is going to be the typical route because we are just going to let time slip past. And from 39 all the way to 65 years old, sorry, there's a typo over here. It should be 26 years, all right? 26 years. The next 26 years might just slip past very quickly. And suddenly, in the blink of an eye, I could be 65 years old, all right? And maybe by then, all my kids have already started to work, get married, moved out, and then I will want to sell my EC and then maybe downgrade to a HDB just to cash out on all my capital, which is good and fine. But the question is that, could we have done something differently in between these 26 years? Could we have expanded our portfolio? Could we have let our capital and the profit that has already been made and locked up here to perform better so that we can have even more options without downgrading? Not saying that HDB properties are no good, but maybe by the time, even a HDB apartment is going to cost us $2 million. We won't know, right? But can we do it in such a way that we can expand our portfolio, maybe retire in a condominium or stay in the landed, but still have liquidity and options? So that is the main objective of today's webinar, is to see what decision should we make at this point in time. Should we make it here or should we make it a few years later so that we don't lose out and we don't leave money on the table? So what is the magic formula? Should we sell our ECs once in MOP? Should we just decouple and invest in one more property? Or should we not even do anything? Because is it true that ECs always make a profit? Or is it just because of this very fact that the holding period, since it's so long, is guaranteed to make a profit? Because I'm holding for 9 years. 9 years later, everything will appreciate because of asset inflation. So let's talk about this, all right? So in order to understand all those questions that I've just shared with everybody, I think it's very important that we answer this question. Does ECs follow the generic macro economic cycle in Singapore? Because when we look at this graph behind us, this graph are 3 color lines that are tracking the performance of landed properties in the orange line, condos and ECs, and we're talking about private properties which include ECs because non-landed residential includes EC, the red color line, and HDB apartments. So does it follow the standard economic cycle, and what should we take note of?